presentation is by David Wanless and Cathy Hutchinson. And David and Cathy are going to talk about folk dancing, bushwalking and activism in Lutruwita, Tasmania. I hope I said that correctly. I got it wrong. Practice. Excellent. And one of the interesting things I think about the folk revival in general is the connection between activism of one kind or another, whether social, political, environmental, walking of one kind or another, whatever it might be, whether it's rambling through Britain was a sort of term used over there, or bushwalking in Australia. So there's also a connection with folk dances, it turns out, and that's what Dave and Cathy are going to talk to us about today. Thank you very much.
So I'm Cathy Hutchinson. I'm born in South Australia. I can't really read it from there, so I'll read it from the slide. To thoughtful parents who instilled environmental values and respect for all our fellow creatures, including human beings of all colours and creed. Both were the youngest in their families and the first to attend university in their families. I grew up in country South Australia before our family moved to Melbourne, where the love of the outdoors and environment continued by going on field trips, spotlighting for or officially trapping and tagging native animals. There's always music at home. My father played guitar, later bagpipes, and well, we also had an extensive record collection. And my parents were both bushwalkers and dancers. I discovered ballroom dancing in my late teens after travelling and living overseas and then moving to Tasmania, Lutruwita, and having a family of my own. I discovered folk music and dance, and I discovered David there as well. Although I am a dressmaker by trade, I have a love of and interest in many things, including science, social justice and equity, town planning, education, health, cycling and travelling, bushwalking, and of course costuming, folk dance, classical and folk music.
Yep.
So, over to David.
Hi, I'm David Wanless, born in Canberra, raised by scientific parents, and I won't read the rest of that. But Mum was very green and practical. Dad was a real outdoorsman, mountaineer, bushwalker, caver. But they both loved both country dancing. Dad took me down to Tasmania when I was 6. There's a photo of me on the beach at the real Lake Pedder, not the fake one, because he wanted me to see Lake Pedder before it drowned. And eventually I moved to Tasmania to work for the Wilderness Society, which I'm still doing, and I'm Cathy and I organise lots of folk dances in Tasmania. We're heavily involved in the folk scene in a whole range of ways, but particularly dancing. We guesstimated we've probably run at least 800 dance events in the 33 years we've been running dances in Hobart and Cygnet Folk Festival. Possibly more.
And the photo on the very right-hand side is a steampunk ball at the Cygnet Folk Festival, and our friend Sarah here
Yeah, you probably
was
can't
the
see it.
tiffin master. Yeah, that's one of the fun things.
So, one of the threads of our talk is activism. So there's a lot of long history of activism in Tasmania, Lutruwita, as we now call it. It's still officially called Tasmania, but many of us call it Lutruwita. Starting off with Aboriginal resistance to the European invasion, and then long-term Aboriginal struggles for justice ever since. We go along to the Change the Date rally every year on Invasion Day. And there's been lots and lots of natural and built environment campaigns in Tasmania. You've probably heard of many of them. The Franklin Dam case being Franklin Dam campaign being probably the most famous, but lots of forest campaigns. We've been involved, and the salmon campaigns that are ongoing at the moment, but there's still lots of forest campaigns, all sorts of things going on. And then social and democratic activism for gay rights, for freedom of information, and for gun control, all sorts of different campaigns. And through numerous groups. The Wilderness Society that I work for is one of many groups working for social change and environmental justice in Lutruwita.
All of these groups are really fighting against a very conservative way called, a friend of ours coined a phrase, the Tasmanian way. And it's very pro-development. In Tasmania there's a political duopoly we call the Laterals. Often, you do that bit.
That's right, I've already covered it.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, so there's a photo of me in the Guns 20 campaign, when we got sued by Guns Limited, forest protest, climate protest, Invasion Day rally, and protest against the Lake Malvina development, which I hope you've heard of.
Yes, they excise a little bit of a national park, the Walls of Jerusalem National Park, to do a private development on an island.
So we've been involved in lots of different campaigns, rallies, protests, blockades, submissions, organising. I do a lot of administration. I've worked for TWIS since 1988 as a volunteer, 1992 as a staff member, with IT as a core.
I also worked for the Wilderness Society for a while, and I've been on many campaigns and assisted at other environmental events as well.
Yeah, and there's a list there of some of the campaigns we've been involved in, which we won't go through, but lots of different things. That's the photo, the top photo there is us in the chapel tree in the Styx Valley with some friends. That was part of the campaign to save the area around the world's tallest Christmas tree and Gandalf's staff. Very successful campaign to have part of the Styx Valley declared a national park, where some of the world's tallest hardwood trees grow. Massive trees up to 95 metres tall, and you can see how wide they are. They held church services inside that tree. Us in front of the Peace Boat, which is a Japanese peace cruise ship, essentially. People go around the world going to different activist things. Like we were Tasmanian guides for that, and old articles in Wilderness News from a few years ago.
Yeah, Tasmania has long been renowned for bushwalking, especially remote places. David's dad influenced him and many others through his exploration and epic exploits, walking, caving and rock climbing. And my father, Colin Hutchinson, went to Tasmania in the late 1960s to search for thylacines, which were believed to still exist at that point. Over 40% of Tasmania is protected in national parks, and often these were championed by bushwalkers such as Gustav Kate Weindorfer early on, Bob Graham with regard to the Douglas Apsley or other bushwalking clubs. There are direct links with environmental activism and bushwalkers, cavers, mountaineers, rafters, etc. They're out there experiencing it all, seeing how magnificent it is.
Yep, and some photos of us in various beautiful parts of Tasmania. That's in the Labyrinth, looking over at Mount Geryon, where my father did a lot of the early rock climbing. He did in one of the early lists of rock climbers in Tasmania. He was one of the first people to climb North Geryon. On the Western Tiers, crossing a creek in the Styx Valley, and on the top of Barn Bluff.
Typical Tasmanian weather.
Yep.
There were rainbows all around it. We got caught in the rain on the way down.
Yep.
It was very wet.
Stunningly beautiful.
Yeah, it was beautiful.
So photography, better than ours, but good photography of wild places plays a key role in many campaigns. You will all have heard of some of those photographers that we list there. Pelagos Trahanas and Peter Dombrowski are two of the most famous, but there are lots of other fantastic Tasmanian landscape photographers, and their images play an incredibly important part in campaigns. And you could argue that Peter Dombrowski's photo of Rock Island Bend was absolutely instrumental in protecting the Franklin. Another important part of a lot of campaigns is getting people out into nature. So you get them out there so they know it, so they love it, so they get inspired by it, so they talk to their friends about it, so that politicians and industry leaders see that lots of people care about these places. And so you can do citizen science, you can actually take people out there and do some of the groundwork that the industry is supposed to do but rarely does, like actually looking for giant trees and endangered species and things like that, rather than just flattening the area and saying, oh, that's a pity, didn't see anything.
Or looking for eagles' nests.
Yeah.
Often the government hasn't found them, but volunteers do.
Yeah, we managed to stop logging in the Styx Valley at one point because one of the Twiz people found a wedge-tailed eagle's nest close to one of the logging roads, and you're not allowed to log within 100 metres of a wedge-tailed eagle's nest in breeding season, so that shut logging down for 6 months. So it's a good example of citizen science. So we've done lots of bushwalking. A lot of it's not connected with activism intrinsically, but we walked the Overland Track and the South Coast Track, and time spent with cats, and been through the walls of Jerusalem
and we were
numerous
there when
times.
they put lights on the Christmas tree.
Yep, so that's the world's tallest Christmas tree in the Styx Valley. It's an 88-metre high eucalyptus regnans, and the Wilderness Society organised for hundreds of metres of fairy lights and a great big fluorescent tube light, so you've got a Christmas star to go on the top of it, and you can't see them in there. Oh, you can, you may be able to see them in there, but there are some little Christmas baubles there which are about that big. Great big blow-up balls. And we submitted it to the Guinness Book of Records, but sadly they said, no, Christmas trees have to be fir trees. And we said,
Not in Australia.
yeah. Anyway, we've also been out in the bush on lots of activist things. So I went to the Picton Blockade, we've been to the Styx numerous times, including for the Christmas tree. And the Florentine Valley. We helped maintain one of the walking tracks out there. We went over to Spira Wanderer Wilderness on the west coast of Tasmania.
That's the bottom picture.
Yep, that's fantastic coastline over on the west coast, very little visited.
And it's very hard to get to by boat because most of the sea is too rough. You couldn't get onto the land.
And that's one of the Wilderness Society's forest open days. We take people into threatened logging coops and show them the ecology and show them the trees. And, usually have some music and some speakers.
Including some very famous artists in there too.
Yeah, that's right. So, that's right.
Yeah.
Okay, so folk dancing. Tasmania has a long history of folk dancing, obviously, including many thousands of years of Aboriginal dancing, about which I don't know a great deal. But there are paintings of Aboriginal dancing at corroborees in Tasmania in the very early days of after the White Invasion. One of the notable features of Aboriginal folk dancing was that they could jump really high. There are multiple paintings of people jumping extremely high in their dances. And of course, from European invasion onwards, there's lots of European-style folk dancing, including lots of dances in the apple sheds, but also in the cities, in places like the Hobart Town Hall, which was opened in 1866 with a magnificent ball, which some 1,100 people attended. I don't know how they all fitted in, but that's okay. Their names are all in the Hobart Mercury.
We ran a grand sesquicentenary, the one on the top right, up for the 150th anniversary of such a ball.
Yeah. So these are all posters of some of the dances that we've run, roughly in chronological order. So you can see we started out with bush dances. All of our dances were initially bush dances, but we've gradually expanded our range so that we've Hungarian dances, and these days we do Klezmer and Balfolk dances and steampunk brawls, and obviously Irish and Scottish tailies, all sorts of different things. Contra dances, Balfolk dances, I mentioned Balfolk, lots of different things, and a Regency festival every year. So we've got a nice library of all of these posters over the years that Cathy and I have designed. And the dances have changed quite a lot over that time. Right.
So the buttongrass ball, dancing is an active sport, but it could also be activism. and that's what spurred us on with the button grass ball. So we've got, through the dances, education, publicity, fundraising, causes for thematical tropical dance events, and that led us to button grass balls. But David also ran bush dances in Canberra for the Wilderness Society before he went to Tasmania in 1992. We've been part of the various sorts of dances that have been activist oriented. The Living Rivers dance, part of a Living Rivers conference. Dance for the Kosovo refugees when they were here. They were in Hobart, they were in Australia in Hobart. We did a dance for them, Dance for Democracy, and that was regarding the reduction of the size of Tasmania's parliament from 35 members to 25.
To try to keep
the Greens out. They ended up, instead of having 5 Greens, they had 1 the next election, but it's now back up to 35 and there are at least 5 Greens in there. So the button grass balls, it's not a colonial ball. We try to recognise Aboriginal heritage within it. We've run them annually since 1998, and each year there's a different theme, mostly environmental. Those dances fall into one category. We got the idea and talked about it with Fred Privack, who some people here already know, and came up with the name. We wanted to reflect that it was Tasmanian, so therefore button grass is Tasmanian. We wanted to reflect that it's Aboriginal heritage and we're dancing on land that was never ceded. And we also wanted to be able to do the fun European dances that everybody loves. So we came up with that idea, and there was a selection of posters from the button grass ball there. We've run since 1998, almost annually. So
we've run 28 of them so far.
Yeah, lots. We also ran a Dance for the Bush, which was a midwinter fundraiser for forests, and then more recently we ran a Bush Dance for Peace, spurred on by our concerns and the community's concerns about what's happening in the world with regards to Palestine and South Sudan particularly.
And Ukraine.
And Ukraine. So we wanted to recognise all those things, and there's war in other places too, but they were the ones that we particularly ran this dance for. We were finally able to send the money. The Palestinian community was easy, but to get money into South Sudan is very difficult, we discovered, because of all the scams, etc. So it's there now.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Okay. So there's each year the button grass ball has a different theme. So we had one for Lake Malvina, one in general about parks privatisation, one about shorebirds, one about the Spirit of Wanderer, and there've been a whole range of different ones, have a different theme every year. For the 21st one, the theme was keeping the wine glasses at bay, about ecotourism, and about loving our precious places to death. And there's a comment up the top there about the history and the reason for the button grass ball. So the ball was founded in 1998 to honour, with a bit of humour, button grass and the rest of Tasmania's natural environment. All Tasmanians who in the last 40,000 years have walked the button grass moorlands, and the many musicians and dancers who have helped shape Tasmania's unique culture. It's always a fundraising dance for an environment group, usually the Tasmanian National Parks Association. And that particular year we just lost Edie Dawson, one of Tasmania's folk legends, so we honoured her in the program for that ball as well. We always include one of the Dawson's dancers in the ball, because although folk dancing is a developing tradition, we like to honour any aspects of the continuing tradition, and the Dawsons have played an absolutely instrumental part in that, so we always include at least one of their dancers.
And Edie also came to quite a few of our button grass balls over the years with the Brandicoods. Julie made sure she did.
That's right. Yep, so she played for a number of the button grass balls. And that's the dance program for that ball. We do almost all, well these days, all Tasmanian dances at the button grass ball every year. It's all Tasmanian dances. It wasn't back years. we had a guest caller for that one. Usually I do the calling, or occasionally Sarah and I do the calling, but that year we had Clinton Garrett do part of it, so he chose some of those dances. But anyway, that's the dance list, and then we always we stopped producing these programs now, it's just another job to do, but we did produce them for many years, and it gave us an opportunity to talk about a bit about the theme for that year. These days we just announce it rather than write it all out. But anyway, that's that. Right, I think.
Me?
Yep.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
With regard to activism and social change at our other dances, we had decided quite some years ago that we'd always do it an acknowledgement of country, and there's an example on the right of what will be said. We do it near the start of the dance, and we make it fairly strong and meaningful. We also have been trying to pay the rent to some extent and give donations from our dance profits to Giving Land Back, which is an organisation that's supposed to encompass all groups of Aboriginal people in Tasmania. We are happy to publicise other activist events. We're happy to have their leaflets and announcements. In fact, we sometimes seek them out so that we can pass the word on. We believe in inclusivity, safety and consent. We take this seriously and discuss this with our core volunteers. I think it was last year, the year before, we attended a workshop about that, and we probably came to the conclusion that we probably don't have any of the problems in the salsa group that they had, but we are open to discussion.
Okay. One of the other things that we do, we've adopted gender neutral calling at all of our dances. We feel that's a very important step. Where you need a role, we call, sometimes you don't need a role, but where you need a role, we call the people who stand on the left of their partner larks, L for lark, L for left. People who stand on the right of their partner, robins, R for right, R for robin. We switched our Contra dances over to that in 2020, and we gradually switched all the rest of them by 2024. We advocate for the same at Cygnet Folk Festival, where I'm the dance program coordinator. We found it very successful in Hobart. It's really resolved a lot of problems. We get lots of good feedback about it. It is controversial in some other dance groups where some people insist on traditional roles, often without understanding how off-putting and even insulting that can be to quite a few people. And especially newer dancers and younger people. Our thought is that dancing's always responded to changes in society, and if it doesn't, it withers away. We're interested in maintaining and building a long-lasting folk dance tradition, and if we don't change with society, we don't help support changes in society, then we won't, the tradition that we love will disappear. Just a few quotes there that are relevant, but the one that I always think is if two women or two men come to a dance together and want to dance together, they're friends, they want to dance together, why on earth should we tell one of them that they have to change gender in order to dance with their friend? It just makes no sense.
Absolutely. There was someone just recently who was told that they were doing the lady role, and she said, "Oh, but I don't have a skirt," and we don't even know if she was a she, if this person, they were a she or a he, but it just causes a bit of confusion unnecessarily because we're there to dance.
Yeah. All right, so we've pretty much run out of time, so won't dwell on this much. But dancing obviously plays we think dancing plays a role in a healthy community through physical exercise and health, mental exercise, mental well-being and health, connecting with other people. My mum, who's a Spanish dance teacher, was fond of saying, where else in our society can you hold a stranger's hand and connect with other people? It's fun and joyful, it was inspiring live music. We always use live music for our dancers. There's a forum tomorrow morning here about reconnecting traditional music and dance. I'll be talking a bit about that then. friendships and food. It's a great antidote to social isolation and anxiety that we hear about all the time as being big problems in our society. And it's low environmental impact. So,
I can remember when I first went to a bush dance, I was very uncomfortable, and I had about this much space around me, and gradually that got closer and closer as I got more and more comfortable, and I realised that nobody was going to bite and nobody was going to harm me at all, and actually everyone else is holding hands and it doesn't seem to be a problem. So yeah, it takes a while to get over that barrier sometimes.
yeah. No, they're all photos from our dances, except the bottom one, which is us dancing at another dance. Okay, oh gosh. Right, okay, I'll say this really quickly. So we also have a whole lot of dances that are topical, that are about campaigns or special places or activists. So there are some of my dance cards, and there are some titles of some of the dances we have. Most of them written by myself or Cathy. Sarah also writes dances a bit.
We wrote one with Sarah, Lion Vage
Yeah, so you know they're named after beautiful places: Mount Turion, Walls of Jerusalem, Cradle Mountain, or they're named for the Spiro Wanderer that we had a photo of before, or Kickanunny Wild, which is opposing the cable car proposal for Mount Wellington. Statement from the Heart, which is in support of the Uluru Statement from the Heart. So lots and lots of those.
And there's a very favourite one of ours. It's called "There Is No Way to Peace." Peace is the way.
Yeah.
And when you think about the title, it's like, yes.
Yeah.
It's so true.
Yeah.
We also have included in the annual Folk Federation Song and Tune Writing Awards a new award for social and environmental justice, and the winner was Greg Wells here playing with Emily Wolfe, who are both very well known in Hobart and the place. And this was on the back of, we have quite a few entries, and there have been previous entries with an environmental or social justice theme. Sorry, that's not coming out right. And we thought it was a really good thing to promote more activism, I guess, in that awards night, and raise some of the issues, encourage people to write about them, sing about them.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any questions?
A couple of questions, I think. One from Erica.
Thank you. Thank you for that very comprehensive overview. My question is about dance transmission. And as somebody who's born outside of this country, I'd like to know, how do you know Hungarian dances so that you can teach them at a ball? Where are these dances coming from? What are the routes of transmission where these dances are coming to you?
Sure. Many and varied, I would say. I mean, I don't teach them all. Sometimes we have other people teach them. So in the case of the Hungarian dance, that was taught by King Gugro, who are the Hungarian dance group in Sydney, who are also at this festival, because they were visiting. We like to get people who are coming to visit Tasmania for other reasons to run a dance for us if they can. But we also learn a lot of dances at festivals like this, from books, from YouTube videos, from travelling. Every time we go anywhere, we try to visit dances and learn dances. We've been cycle touring in France, for example, and picked up a lot of French dances over there.
From festivals or from people who teach them.
Yeah.
Also, we learned from the London Klezmer Quartet who've been here. We learned some dances from them here, and also in Hobart. They stayed with us for 2 weeks, so we learned quite a few dances from them as well.
Yeah, so we just love learning dances and learning to teach them. So we teach many different styles. Yes, Rob?
I'd just like to acknowledge your help with the traditional dances and unique dances of Tasmania. There's a bloody lot of them.
Yeah.
Peter Ellis, myself, we managed to record a lot of these. You brought out publications of them. So thank you very much for that, recognising the full hall quadrilles and things like that. Also, one of the most memorable recordings I think that Ollie and I have ever made was at your place with a room full of activists who had been at the Franklin, and they were all singing their songs.
Yeah.
Thank you.